welcome everyone to Yoga Pilates Fusion. We're going to start today in either a child's pose or something that you like instead. So I'm going to suggest child's pose, but if you would prefer something else, maybe you want to lay on your back for the first little bit, or you want to start in a seated position, that would work as well. All right. And then we'll just all come together at the end of the child's pose. Now I like my child's pose with the knees a little on the wide side, and I usually take my time coming in, so I might go out and then back with the hips. I might do a little side to side wobble. Sometimes I put a little pillow underneath my chest, so you can make it your own. If you like your arms back, you can put your arms behind you. I like mine up front generally. And then we're just using this as an opportunity to really slide into the present moment, to get really focused on our breath and on this pose and the space we're in. So we're going to take 2 more breaths where we are. And then we're just going to add a side bend. Now, from child's pose, just walk your hands over to one side. I reach out a little longer through the opposite. So I went to my left. So I'm going to reach my right hand out longer to kind of stretch the right side out. If you started seated, just side bend. And if you started laying on your back, just bend yourself like a little banana pose off to the side. So either way, no matter what, we're going to get a little side stretch and a side bend, in the spine. Then I'm going to come back toward the center, but thread that right arm underneath my left armpit, and then resting on that right arm and shoulder. You could take your left arm up over your back and kind of tuck it in. I like to grab the edge of my mat and kind of push a little bit, sending me a little closer to child's pose, and also sort of digging a little deeper into that shoulder stretch that's happening underneath my shoulder blade. So you can experiment a little bit, but if you're seated or if you're lying on your back, do a little twist. Oh. They'll all be a little different, but similar enough. Oh. And then we're going to come back to the center. And you can pause there for a moment. If you like, you can come up onto all fours and do a few rounds of cat. I like to just see, can I feel the difference between the right side and the left side? And then when you're ready, it feels like everything's pretty neutral. Walk over the other direction or side bend the other way. Then coming back towards the center, threading the left arm underneath. I'm going to add that little twist, and so you just transition into whichever version of the twist you're doing. couple more breaths. And then we're gonna bring ourselves back to the center. And again, you can choose to repeat the child's pose, give yourself a little back massage, whatever seems appropriate based on the shape that you chose. I'm gonna transition myself into some little cat shapes, starting here on my elbows and then bringing myself up. So there's the round back sort of Halloween cat shape, which I like to try to get more stretch in the lower back for that, really tuck the pelvis in. And then there's this other shape, which sometimes is called cow, where mostly what I'm trying to do is broaden and kind of open up the upper back, but the pelvis tilts the other direction, right? So it's mostly a movement in the pelvis that sort of ripples through the spine, but you can emphasize different areas of your back if you like. You can do little side stretches. You can turn the hands in different directions to hit your wrists a little differently. And we're going to do a little spinal balance. So generally the spinal balance is done with opposite leg and arm off the ground. If for whatever reason you need to, you can put your hand down. Even just touching a couple of fingers to the floor will make, it'll make it a little more challenging, but it will still give you a little bit more stability. So if you need that stability, go for it. If you can do without, go do that. And then as you exhale, see if you can bring your elbow and your knee closer together. Maybe they even touch. Stretch out. We're going to round the back. Stretch out. And then one more time, round the back. Stretch out nice and long. Now, bringing your hand down, you're going to bring your foot up behind you. If you want to, you can reach back and grab hold of that foot. If for any reason that seems ridiculous, just lift the leg and bring the heel towards your buttock. Feel that stretch no matter what. And then letting go of your foot, if you're holding it, bring that leg all the way forward and we'll wind up in a lunge. Now, if you have some yoga blocks, you can use them if you like. You can hold onto your hips. You've got furniture nearby. You can use that for stability. We're going to aim ourselves directly forward over the front knee, or pointing in that direction anyway. And you're just finding that stretch in the front of your hip. I back off a little bit and then come in again a few times just to sort of feel out where the edge is. See if there's a spot I like better. All right, yogis. So we're going to take the hips back and fold over top of the front leg. And so this, for me anyway, gives me a hamstring stretch. I assume it will do similar good things for you. So we'll come back to some of these same muscles again later, but it's nice to check in with them. So when you're ready, take your right leg back. Pause for a moment in the center. Just see if you can feel, again, a kind of asymmetry. When you're ready, take your opposite leg and arm out. In this case, I've got my left leg and right arm. And then curl in if you like. And stretch out. Add all those stability pieces that you need. Curl in. Stretch out. Curl in. Stretch out. And then you're going to bring your hand down. And again, if you want, you can reach back and grab hold of the foot. Or just bring the heel in towards your buttock and lift your thigh. We're just trying to feel that stretch across the front of the thigh, the hip flexor. One more breath. And then let go of the foot and then bring that leg all the way forward. And again, we're going to come into a lunge using any method of support that you like. And again, initially I like to go in and out a little bit. You might just want to find a lunge and hold. So for me, there's a spot where I just feel the sensation. And then I can be a little pushier. I can keep going forward, but then it will cause other muscles to tense up around it. So I try to find the spot that's right in the sweet place, just at the point where I feel the sensation. And then if it starts to soften, I'll go a little deeper then. I'm just kind of checking it out. Every day it's slightly different. So I'm going to take the hips back one more time, fold over this front leg. So I've got a little hamstring stretch. Or a lot of hamstring stretch, could be a lot. Last breath, and then I'm going to put that leg back where it came from, and take a moment, and you can do a couple rounds of cat if you like, just noticing how everything feels. Does it feel a little more symmetrical? So I'm going to back my knees up just a little bit and shift forward into a modified plank. Now if you want, you can do a full plank. We're going to hold the plank steady. Try to get your navel kind of tucked in, your tailbone just a little bit lengthening towards your heels or your knees. And then we're going to lower down to the ground nice and slow. Put your hands up close to the top edge of the shoulder. Press the legs down into the floor nice and firm. Lift into Cobra. Oh. Try to do that with your back muscles and not pushing with your arms. Pull your hands back just a little bit. Press the palm into the floor. Lift with your back muscles. Now, if you took your hands off, you'd still be there, but press your palms down and open the chest. Try to pull the collarbones back. Ooh. Slide your hands back just a little bit more. One more time, lift into Cobra. Draw the elbows back, chest wide. And then come on back down. We're gonna bend the knees and give them just a little windshield wiper back and forth. Ooh. Now, taking the right knee and keeping that guy bent, lengthening the left leg out all the way, scoot all the way over to the edge, maybe even slightly off the edge of your mat on the right. We're gonna roll ourselves all the way over onto our back. Now, you need to move your TV or your phone so you can see what's going on. Go for it. Otherwise, we're gonna take this right leg, just bring it on in, give it a little hug, give your foot a spin. Go the opposite direction. And then point and flex your foot a bit. All right. So, hugging the knee in, we're going to curl the shoulder blades up as best we can. So, if you tend to pull from your neck a little bit too much, take your hands, put them back behind you, press your head back into your hands. So your chin is going to be a little bit kind of down. We're not lifting the chin up, but we're also not trying to jam it into the breastbone. Okay, there's a little bit of space there, a sort of neutral feeling in the neck. We want to feel the work coming from these upper abdominals. Then hover, if you can, your left leg. If that doesn't work out, you can switch it up. But this is the single straight leg stretch. So one leg is straight. We're stretching into that leg and then curling just that little extra bit of ab work up towards the knee that's closer. Stretch the other leg out straight, curl in. And we're trying to keep it as straight down the middle with the curl as you can. Now exhale to get the curl up and then keep going. 3 more sets. When you've gotten your sets finished, go ahead and put yourself back down. Grab hold of that left leg. Spin your left foot in circles. And go the other direction. And then point and flex. Ah. That's delightful. All right, yogis. Now we're gonna lengthen ourselves back out. Give it a nice big long stretch. Oh, and then taking that right leg back over where we came from so that we wind up back onto our belly. We're gonna kind of play with that notion as we go along today. So if for any reason that doesn't work out with your camera view, you can probably figure out how to do the same thing. Just kind of come along with me as best you can. So we're gonna take a downward dog if that's appropriate. If it's not, you can do a squat instead, or do some of each if you like squatting and you like downward dog. Oh. Take a moment to just sort of appreciate what it feels like to stretch out everything in your back body. And then when you're ready, walk yourself into a standing position where you're on your feet. So all your weight's on your feet, and then come on up. When you are ready to stand up, give it a big stretch. Oh. Now, we're gonna come to a mountain pose just as soon as I correct a few environmental hazards and make my mat sticky. Oh. All right. So toes are pointed forward, and we're gonna put our shoulders down. So if there's like a burden you've been carrying up on your shoulders, just try to put that down. Feel your arms grow a little bit longer. So we're gonna grow tall from the spine and not from the shoulders. Try to find that position where it feels pretty balanced on your feet, left to right, front to back, inside to outside. Feel what the mountain pose feels like right now. And then we're gonna inhale and take a nice big long stretch. Exhale, grab your right wrist, give yourself a little side bend to the left. Coming back to the center, put all the weight on that right leg, bring your left leg into a tree pose. So you can have the foot up on the calf muscle or up on the thigh, or even toe touching the ground if that's better. Don't be afraid to be wobbly, yogis. Sometimes we're wobbly. Taking a nice big breath, lifting that left leg up. We're going to try to step back into a high lunge. Oh, it might work out. It might not work out. Okay. So again, everything's oriented forward. Hips are oriented forward, chest is oriented forward, or maybe it's falling over, hard to say. You can just pause right here, or if you want to add a little pulsation, you can try bending your left knee down toward the ground and then straightening it back out. So it depends on the relationship you have with your quads and your kneecap as to whether any of that will be appropriate. Do one more round if you're doing them. And then we're gonna take the legs out straight. So I'm gonna straighten out my front leg, see if my left heel will come to the ground. It will not. So I'm gonna lean forward, step in, and then try again. And once I can get both heels on the floor, then I'm gonna fold forward. I might stop up here. I might stop about parallel to the ground. I might stop when my forehead runs into my shin bone. I will stop before that point, but you get the drift. Like, just go to the point where you feel stretch happening in the back of your thigh, and not all right at your sit bone, but a little more evenly distributed across your leg. So we're coming back into the little territory we left behind with the lunge. One more breath here. Now you're gonna bend your front knee, put your hands on the floor, and step back. You can go directly to plank, or you can go to down dog first, and then come to plank. You can hold your plank, maybe a one-legged plank or two, well, maybe three-legged plank, including the arms. Lower down when you're ready. Come into a cobra or a little back bend of your choice. And then take yourself back to down dog. Now that left leg is coming up with us, and we'll step it forward. Bring the right leg with you. Come on up halfway. Fold. And then come all the way to standing. When you're ready, give yourself a big stretch. Oh. And find your mountain pose. And notice if there's a difference between the right side and left side. Nice big breath. Arms reach up, grab your left wrist, give yourself a little stretch over to the right. Ooh. Bringing the weight back to the left leg, picking the right leg up into a tree. Ooh. All right, then we're going to pick that right leg up and try to step back into our high lunge without causing any trouble. Once you found the pose, you can just hold onto it, or you can lower that right knee toward the floor and then bring it back up to straight. Lower it toward the floor, bring it back up to straight, and maybe do it one more time. And then again, we're going to straighten out the front leg, see if we can get this back heel all the way down. If not, lean forward, bring your foot in, and then try to get it there. And then we're going to fold over the straight front leg. I take my time. I'm looking for where's the point where I feel the stretch. I'm going to stop right there and breathe. Two more breaths, yogis. And then we're going down. Now, we're going to do the vinyasa down to the floor on the Cobra, and then we'll stay for a moment. So if you want to add your extra plank work and hold that for a moment, you can. When you get there, lower all the way down, do your back bend, and then back down to the ground. Now, scooting over to the left edge of the mat, bending your left knee. We're going to bring that guy all the way around so that we wind up on our back. And this is where you might have to do a little logistics. All right, so both knees coming into the chest. You're going to either place a hand just to the inside edge of your hips and press the palms nice and firmly into the ground, or you can have the hands a little on the outside. Or you can bring your hands behind your head and curl your shoulders up and press your head back into your hands, okay? So you're gonna choose based on what is the appropriate amount of support for the lever that we've got. So legs extend up, glue the heels together, spread out your toes. We're gonna lower the legs down for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it steady, draw that navel in. 3, 2, 1, then come on back. 4, 3, 2, 1, hold. 4, 3, 2, 1, come back. 4, 3, 2, 1, hold. 4, 3, 2, 1, come back. Now you can do your own count if you want for the next 3. 4, 3, 2, 1, hold. 4, 3, 2, 1, come back. 4, 3, 2, 1, hold. 4, 3, 2, 1, come on back. Last one. 4, 3, 2, 1, hold. 4, 3, 2, 1, come back. Bend your knees, put your feet on the ground. You can give yourself some little windshield wipers if you like, or pull your knees into your chest and give your back a little rock. And then we're gonna go back over, so we're taking that left leg with us back onto the belly. Coming into Cobra. And taking ourselves back to down dog. Taking the right leg up. Bring that leg forward. Left leg comes to meet it. Come up halfway. Exhale, fold. Come all the way to stand and give yourself a big stretch. Oh. And then we're gonna find our way to mountain pose. Oh. And see if things have changed. Does this mountain pose feel the same as the last mountain pose we did? Now, Take a big breath. Extend the arms up. Exhale, come to chair pose. You can make this a deeper chair if you like, or keep it just a little on the shallow side like you're sitting on a bar stool. Put your weight in your right leg. Take your left leg either across at the ankle or the shin, or bring that ankle up on top of your thigh. You can leave the arms up or bring the arms down, as the case may be, whatever the appropriate amount of lever is on your body. Ooh. And try to hold it as steady as possible within the wobbly. Taking a nice big breath, we're gonna pick this left leg up and step back to Warrior Two. So Warrior Two orients us more to the side, but we're not trying to square our pelvis sideways. We wanna keep this leg really stable so it doesn't bow inward. So let your hips go wherever they go, because we all have different hip sockets. So it's gonna be an appropriate amount for you. Keep this leg nice and straight, pointing in that forward direction. We're gonna let the arms go up if you like. Take a nice big breath. Now, we're gonna add some mermaid to this. But just to start with, get yourself nice and steady and imagine you're kind of stretching the mat between your two legs and there are 2 feet, and then come on back to reverse and over to side angle, and we're stretching the side waist of the body, right? So you don't even have to touch down on anything. Stretch and then lengthen and stretch. If you need the extra support, put your elbow on your thigh, put your hand on your back thigh as you move through these 2 movements. Mostly focused on this length and stretch in the side of the body. And then we've got the balance challenge of holding that while we're in this pose. So one more time. Now we're gonna come back to neutral, turn both feet around so they're pointing in the same direction. You can turn them out slightly if that feels better in your joints. And then we're gonna fold forward. It might stop a little above the halfway mark. Maybe at halfway, maybe you're gonna let yourself drop a little further forward in. Press the feet into the mat if you can. Imagine again, we're kind of stretching the mat between the 2 feet. And so for this first round, we're gonna try to keep the legs mostly straight. And we're just gonna wander just the torso a little to the left and then a little to the right. So it's more side bend than anything. Little to the left, little to the right. One more time on each side. Coming back to the center, lift up halfway, and then we're gonna bring the feet in just a little bit. So they're not quite as wide. Turn your right foot all the way to the right or pretty close to it. Stretch out through your right arm. If you want, you can use a block. And then lift your left leg up off the floor and balance in this little half moon. It might look a little bit more like a star, or maybe like a conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter. Nice big breath. Bring both feet to the ground, both hands to the ground. Step back into your down dog or go directly to plank. And then take your vinyasa. You want to just hold the plank and go back, you can do that too. Taking the left leg up and stepping forward. Bring the right leg behind it. Come on up halfway. Fold. Come all the way to standing. When you get there, give yourself a big stretch. And find a mountain pose. Take an inhale, reach up, come into chair pose, shift the weight into the left leg, bring the right leg into some cross the leg position, and then hold it steady as best you can. Again, you can bring the arms down if you want. 2 more breaths. We're going to pick up this leg and step back into our Warrior Two. Try to find it. Get steady with your legs and hips. Arms come up Find that kind of balanced, relaxed shoulder position. And then you can add the mermaids a little bit, or really go into it. Right? It can be a little smaller range of motion. As long as you're stretching your sides, that's what we're doing. Hold those legs steady. Take one more version, one more little round. And then we're going to come to straight legs and turn the legs again forward and fold. Now this time we're going to turn the toes out a bit more, and you can experiment with how much more, because we're going to take this little bending knee position now. Bend the right knee, come to the right, float to the center, bend your left knee, come to the left. And as far as it makes sense to go, given your knees to the center, to the right, to the center, to the left. You got the idea. Do it one more time on each side. And we're going to come back to the middle. You can turn the toes in if you like. Fold down the center. One more breath. And then we're going to bring the feet a little closer together. Turn the left toes all the way to the left. Reach out through your left arm and see if we can lift ourselves up into that half moon balance. Nice big stretch. And then we're going to put the feet on the ground. Step back into down dog. And then take your plank. And again, if you want to add on to your plank here, you can. Now, I'm going to bring my right knee to the ground. If you'd rather, you can leave yourself in that full plank and just roll onto the right side for a right side plank. If you can do it, lift through your side waist. If you can add on, take that leg up in the air on the top, and we'll make 3 circles. 1, 2, 3, and then go the other way. 1, 2, 3. I'm knocking over things in my house. Bring the leg down. We're coming back down to the belly. So finding your plank again, lowering. Coming into Cobra. Coming back down. Now, we're going to take ourselves to that left side plank. So pressing yourself back up to the plank that's appropriate. Roll it onto the left side. And again, take the time you need to get yourself nice and stable. Lift through the side waist. If you can, hover that top leg. If you can, add some circles. 3, 2, 1. Go the other direction. 1, 2, 3. Lift. Come back to your regular plank and lower all the way to the belly. All right, pause there for a moment. Turn your head to one side. You can take your arms and lace the fingers together, or put one palm on top of the other, or let your palms rest beside you. Now, every time we lift, we're going to bring the head into a neutral position. When we land, we'll land on the opposite cheek, okay? Heels come in towards the buttocks for 3 little kicks. 1, 2, 3. Then you're going to lift the torso and the legs off the floor. Everything draws to the midline. Come on down on the other side. Kick in 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Lift. And come back down. Now we're going to repeat that 2 more sets, 2 on each side. Do your own count. All right, so we got 1 more set to go. And you should return to the original direction you were facing your head in. So we're going to take the right arm up and roll onto the right side. So we've got the hips stacked up on top of each other. Or give myself a little more space. Hips stacked on top of hip, shoulders stacked on top of shoulder, and everything in the center we're going to try to draw inward towards the midline. So it's almost like we're trying to make a tunnel underneath this bottom side waist, okay? So draw in nice and firm. If you need more support, bend your bottom knee or stretch that leg out a little in front of you. If you can keep the legs lined up, it'll make it a little more challenging. And then finally, if you were to pick both legs up off the floor, it will make it a little more challenging still. So you decide what the right amount is. So I've got my left leg lifted, my right leg's pressing into the ground, hugging in through the sides of the waist. We're going to turn the foot so that it's in an external rotation. You're going to go up and down in a smooth movement, pointing the toe on the way up, kind of stretching through the shin, flexing the foot and stretching through the calf on the way down. Try not to move the torso at all. If you need more support, put your palm up front, or you can put your palm on your hip, or you can put your hand behind your ear as you see fit. So coming up and going down, 3 more of those. Good job, you guys. Now, when we get to the bottom there, you're going to keep your leg just slightly higher than the hip. Rotate now so that the internal rotation, everything points knee and toes kind of down at a diagonal. And you can feel this kind of lumpy part of your femur bone stick up in the air a little bit. We're going to swing the leg forward and back, and you can even see, like, can I touch down with the big toe as I come to those 2 forward and back positions. There's a tendency for the shoulders to want to move here, so really try to draw in through the sides of the waist and hold it steady. Good, last round of that. All right, now bring the legs back to the center line. We're gonna turn the toes so that they're opposite each other. Bring the feet in behind you. Now the feet are up, the knees are down. You can just open, so you've got a little butterfly shape with the knees, hold it steady, and then close it up. Or you can open, hold that thigh nice and stable, extend the leg out, then bring the toes together, then bring the knees together. So the top leg can either straighten or not, depending on how it feels in your knee. And then we're just gonna move like we're underwater, nice and smooth and slow. 4 more times. Try to hold steady with the core, drawing into the sides. Good, I might have done 4, but I'm gonna do 1 more just to be sure. Then we're gonna bring the legs down. And this top leg, you can maybe feel a little bit of that warmth around the outer hip. So we're gonna essentially stretch that out a little bit by bringing the leg across. So you can have a straight leg, or you can put the foot on the ground. It's up to you, whichever one you think is gonna be best today. Then that bottom leg is gonna lift. Try to get the hips again stacked on top of each other so the hips not rolling backwards. And with that leg lifted, we're gonna pulse it up a little higher for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Try to feel yourself lift that side waist up with the leg and circle it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Circle the other way. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now take that leg down. We're going to see if we can get hold of this left leg. So bring the left knee in. You might just hold it on the back of the thigh. You might grab hold of the ankle. You might grab hold of your big toe. You can use a strap if that's helpful. Push up through that leg. So you're trying to stretch up toward the ceiling, almost like you're trying to lift yourself off the floor. Then we're going to see if we can hover this bottom leg and maybe even get a little bit lighter through the rest of the body, hovering in Vishnu's couch made of snakes pose. It's got a big name. Take a nice big breath. Now we're gonna kind of come out of this, but not entirely. So we're gonna bring the legs together. We're gonna roll a little bit onto the fleshy part of the right hip, and then we're gonna come up to the elbow. See if we can hold that little side boat. If you can take this arm off the ground and hold your side boat, awesome. But if not, leave that arm light on the floor. Try to lighten up on that shoulder and hold that side boat for 4, 3, 2, 1. Coming back down all the way around onto the belly. Oh, you can just lay there like a slug. Goodness knows sometimes I need it. Or you can do 3 little rounds of Cobra as you see fit. Oh. Now the theory is you would just take your left arm up and roll onto it, but I'm gonna spin this whole thing around to do the other side. So, now, hips on top of hips, shoulder on top of shoulder. I'm trying to get as stable as possible. So I've externally rotated the legs. I've got my bottom leg floating a little bit. I'm gonna see if I can do it that way. If not, I'll put the leg back down for more stability. Top leg comes up with a pointy toe and down with a flexed foot. As smooth as you can move, and work with the range of motion available in your hips joint, which might be a smaller range of motion and not straight up and down. Try to hold steady through your core. 2 more. Good. All right, when we get down, we're gonna try to hold that leg just slightly higher than the hip. You're gonna rotate the whole thing internally, and we're gonna swing forward and back, and maybe you can touch down, but it doesn't really matter. So as long as we're keeping the core nice and stable, as I swing my leg back, it's much harder for me to stabilize, so I'm really squeezing in there. All right, so we're squeezing the abdominals towards the center line, trying to hold that stable while we're simultaneously working our internal rotators and theoretically stretching out these adductors here on the side of the hip. I think it's all working, frankly. So 3 more of those. Now, when you get back to the center, we're going to bring the legs together. Bring the feet behind. And again, the feet stay together, but watch this tendency to want to roll the hip. So keep the hip nice and stable. Keep lifting through your bottom side waist. Open the knees. Maybe there's an extension. Maybe you just hold that and then bring it back together. This is one of my favorite moves. I could do this every day. It makes my hip feel so, it sings songs to me, this hip movement does. Some days the songs are nice songs. Some days the songs tell me stories about how I'm torturing my hip. But you know this, probably you have similar things. We're gonna do 4 more if we can. I've got 1 more to go. All right, so then we're gonna straighten the legs out. Bring that leg up front. And again, you can leave the leg straight or put the foot on the ground. Just make sure the hips are nice and stable. Lift that bottom leg, feel yourself lift the side waist with it, and then pulse that leg up for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hugging up, drawing a circle. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Other direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. Putting that leg down, reaching this right knee in. See if you can grab hold of that right big toe, or maybe it's a strap. Push up through the leg, nice and strong. See if you can float the bottom leg. And I'm not lifting my head, but I'm trying to get lighter by pushing in the direction of my foot. Just balancing here on the side of my hip. I like the way this kind of stretches out my shoulder as well as the hamstrings and inner thighs. It's become one of my favorite poses this pandemic. All right, so we're gonna let it go. And again, we're gonna kind of bring ourselves onto the fleshy area. There's this greater trochanter, that pokey part of your thigh. We wanna get onto this big gluteus medius area if we can help it for this little side boat. So again, we're gonna come to the elbow to start, and then you might lift off that elbow all the way, or you might, like me, leave it there for stabilization. Try to hold that side boat. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring the legs down. We're rolling onto our back. Oh, now, once we get there, you can just take a moment to pause. Now we're gonna do a reclining version of the pigeon. If you would rather do a regular version of the pigeon, you are welcome to roll back over onto your belly. I'm gonna elevate my hips a little bit. You can do that with a folded blanket, a pillow, a yoga block. I'm gonna use a yoga block today. This can be a little bit firm, so if you want something a little softer, definitely use like a blanket or a pillow. As long as the pillow is a little firm, you'll be all right. Now, the hips are gonna rest on this block, and then I'm gonna extend out my left leg. So I get the hip flexor stretch there, and then this right leg is coming in toward me. I wanna externally rotate that leg and then just bring it in as close as I can. I can go more across my body or more out to the edge. I just feel for that sensation in the hip. You can hold onto the foot if you like. Just make sure that your knee doesn't feel like it's being torqued in any way. I keep my toes pointing straight, like flexed at the foot, pointing straight up so that they're the same direction as my kneecap, so that my lower leg bones aren't turning in the joint. And that keeps my knee nice and stable. You can also do this the more traditional way, where you bring the legs in and you don't have to have the block under you. This is just a great way to get both this hip flexor stretch as well as this little piriformis release. Oh. And maybe one of my new favorite versions of this pose. I do it a lot. So we're going to stay for about 4 more breaths. If you're done a little earlier than that, you can stop. Now I'm going to release this leg, placing the right leg down. The left foot down first. Then I'm going to put my right leg down, just so I've got a kind of stable place there to land. And then just pause for a moment and check in with how your hips feel. If there's any discomfort in your low back, you might want to do a lower amount of support or just something a little softer. You get to decide all of that. When you're ready, you're going to stretch the opposite leg out. And then you'll bring this, so now my right leg is stretched out, my left leg is in this little external rotation. I'm going to try to find kind of the best position for that to occur. For me, each leg is slightly different in the amount it will rotate and how it feels. And working with the block versus a pillow or a blanket definitely changes things up. The block has pokey edges. So we're kind of working with what we got, yogis. If you've got tight hip flexors, this kind of a pose, for me anyway, feels really good at the end. So you get that nice opportunity to kind of release the hip flexors, stretch them out a bit over the edge of the block. All right, so I'm going to put my right foot on the ground, then I'm going to leg go and put the left foot down, and then I just have to get the block out from underneath me. So lift the bridge and come on down. Now I'm going to kind of keep going with that notion, doing some rolling bridge poses. So hugging the shoulders in. I do robot arms because I have a carrying angle, so when I try to put my arms down, it pops my shoulder out of alignment. But if you can put your arms down on the ground and hug them into the floor, do it that way. So we're going to curl the tailbone in and try to lift one vertebrae at a time all the way up to the shoulders. And then work one vertebrae at a time all the way back down. And I go slower on the down slope because it's easier for me to feel each vertebral movement. Oh. Now, my lower back is kind of a unit because it curves inward. It's harder for me to feel that one vertebrae at a time, but I still go for it. Now, if that causes any pain for your low back, just put the whole low back down with the sacrum all in one chunk. And don't worry about trying to roll it. Some of us have maybe some disc variation that causes some trouble there. So one vertebrae at a time. We're going to try to do 3 more of these. And you can go faster or slower, but give yourself the pace that lets you really tune in to this kind of feeling of each bone moving. There's little muscles in between our vertebrae, and we're trying to access those little articulative muscles that help keep our spine really supple and healthy feeling. That's the whole point of this, is to access those little muscles. Multifidi. Now, I've got one more to go. Oh. So I'm going to do one more lift and come down one more time. And then once I'm all the way down, I'm going to bring my knees into my chest. Oh, give it a little back massage. And one more little pose for this outer hip is a spinal twist. So I'm going to wrap my left leg around my right leg and go to the right first. And sometimes it's helpful to me to have something to lean my knee into there, like a block or a pillow. Roll the shoulder as best you can toward the ground by rotating the rib cage. So you get that nice rotation in the upper back. And then there might be a really lovely stretch through your outer hip and maybe even the chest muscle on this left side. If you went the other direction, it'll be on your right side clearly. Oh. So we're going to take a couple breaths here, just letting ourselves sink in a bit. Take a big breath. Oh, come on, back to the middle. Give yourself a little windshield wipers in between if you like. And then we're heading over the other direction. So I'm going to take that right leg around. Find a way to settle my legs onto the ground. Twist my upper back when it's ready to twist this direction. Oh, this side for me is spicier. Do you guys have a spicier side? Let yourself relax. All right, you these are going to take one more breath, maybe 2 if it's feeling really good. And then we're coming back to the center And we're just gonna stretch out for some Shavasana. Now, some of you guys like to jet off and go work. So if you have to jet off and go work, have a great rest of your day. And Merry Christmas to you if you celebrate it. And otherwise, we're gonna do some Shavasana. So you can make yourself comfortable if you like by putting a blanket or pillow under your legs. If you're chilly, cover up with a blanket. And then let your body relax as best you can. So letting your body relax is really a little bit of a conscious effort. Try to let your eyes get really soft and kind. Let the lips get really soft and the jaw a little bit more relaxed. Let your teeth part a bit. And feel the shoulder roll kind of heavy into the floor. And sometimes after a bit, it even feels nice to readjust the arms and just let that happen a little bit more. Feel your whole upper back and chest and shoulder girdle really relax into the ground. And transfer down into the palms of the hands, which are able to relax completely. And feel the places where the pelvis touches the ground and the legs touch the ground. And let yourself relax into, sink into the floor. Feel yourself being totally supported by the ground. Now, without moving, yogis, just notice your breath again. Feel the sweet rhythm of your breath, if you can, coming and going, maybe right at the tips of your nostrils. Maybe at the rise and fall of your chest. If you don't like to feel the breath for whatever reason, just notice your body. Take a really deep breath. Let it go with a big sigh. Wiggle. Move your wrist and ankles. Stretch out. And then curl up in a ball and roll to your side. And sit up when you're ready. Thank you for joining me for some yoga Pilates fusion. Let's take one more big breath together. And a big sigh. Namaste, beautiful souls.